Assalamualaikum, my name is Nur Nadira binti Nur Azman, my metric number CF190096. I will present about the introduction of our project. Maju Bersama Construction SDN BHD, a grade 7 contractor in Johor, is our company. Recently, we were awarded a proposed development of 20 units of a 5-story lecture room building. The construction site is 5 acres of land consisting of bushes, large trees and watery area. We were requested by the client to provide a preliminary risk assessment report. In this project, we were told to concentrate on structural steel work, as shown in the HIRARC table. This report is discussed and produce an appropriate risk control, which will be further explored in this project. So the objective of our project is to investigate any potential hazard that have arisen or are expected to arise during the construction process, and second, to put employee safety. The scope of this project is limited to the structural steel work on the job site. HIRARC guideline will follow it when conducting the evaluation. Next, in our construction activity, we need to identify at least 10 hazard safety and health hazard, including at least 3 hazards in the construction site. Moreover, we need to estimate the safety and health risks from each of these hazards and determine the most critical safety and health hazard. Structural steel work. Structural steel is generally described because the metal that form in step with it used inside the production of numerous industrial and business structure. Energy and sturdiness as well as ductile resistances make structural metallic hard yet easy to painting with. So this is the type of structural steel work that we use in construction industry, which is angle section, tabular hollow section, flat section, parallel flange channel, rectangular hollow section, square hollow section, tapered flange beam, universal column. And this is the flow chart process of structural steel work. First, we design and select structural steel according with industry standard, and then to evaluate the structural assembly steadiness, researchers use structural calculation and CAD or CAM simulation. And then special instruments such as laser or plasma cutting machine, bending or reshaping machine, bandsaw machine, and punches are used to prepare structural steel based on the design provided. And then the process of applying a coating to a structural steel product to protect it from deterioration and rusting. And next, the product was constructed and assembled on site based on the structural design. And lastly, when required, actual structure testing is performed after on-site construction or installation is completed.
Assalamualaikum, my name is Nur Hazwani Izia binti Suhami, metric number CF190014. I will explain about methodology. The flowchart of methodology. Many stages and works must be completed during the construction of building to ensure that the building is well constructed, beginning with site cleaning, setting out, excavation, piling, reinforcement, and concreting, all of which require the use specific tool or machine to complete the work as shown in figure beside. Hazard identification, risk assessment, and risk control, HIRARC. This HIRARC methodology is simple enough to be used by anyone in any economic sector, whether in manufacturing, construction, or any other economic sector. These two flowcharts that can briefly describe in the entire process in order to accurately assess occupational safety at the workplace. These 3 steps of HIRARC assessment process. First is hazard identification. For hazard identification can be defined as the process of determining of something such as condition, state, practice of behavior has the possibility of causing harm, disruption as well as impairment, illness, death, environmental damage and damage to property and equipment. Net risk assessment. Assessing risk involves evaluating the level of risk to be considered for controlling risks that currently exist as well as potential risks. Risk evaluating is to be calculated with the likelihood of hazardous incident occurring within a period under the circumstance of injury, severity, or damage.
From the HIRARC table, there are several work activities based on our topic structural steel work. From the work activity, we can explain about the hazard identification, risk assessment, and risk control. This HIRARC table have a hazard identification, risk assessment, and risk control. For hazard identification, have work activity, hazard, and which can cause effect. For the risk assessment, have existing risk control, likelihood, severity, risk, and risk classification. And for the risk control, have recommended control measure. For the risk control, recommended control measure, for the PPE control PC, all the hazard have to wearing of safety helmet, safety shoes, boot, working glove, and safety vest should be mandatory. For this project, have a 10 hazard, and for the existing risk control, all of the 10 hazard still no existing risk control measure. And for the risk classification, have a yellow, medium, and the other one is red for the high. For the first hazard is excessive manual handling, and the second hazard is poor access and egress. For the third hazard is the failure of hosting tackle during hosting, which can crash by hosting, load, and fatal. For the risk classification is red and high. Next is the fall lashing of the hosted load, and which can cause a load give away heat and crash worker and fatal. And for the risk classification is also red and high. The next hazard is excessive load lifter, which can cause overload and loss of load, crash and fatal cause bodily injury, and the risk classification is red and high. The next hazard is failure of halting tackles during suspending holding the load, and can cause crash by hostile load and fatal, which also a risk classification is red and high. The next hazard is exposed to a protrude sharp object, which can cause potential to puncture leg and hand and causes injury. And for the risk classification is yellow, medium. And next is unsafe erectional of working platform for scaffold and can causes working platform collapse and worker fatal, which risk classification is a red high. Next hazard is excessive manual handling, which can cause potential to sustain body injury and musculoskeletal disorder syndrome. And the risk classification is yellow, medium. And the last hazard is exposed to fall while working at height. This can potential to fall from height and may cause a fatal. And the risk classification is red high. From the all the hazard have the risk control that we conclude in this HIRARC table for the engineering control EC and administrative control AC and also PPE control PC.
My name is Nur Shahida binti Basunan and my metric number DF190153. Today I would like to talk about hazard prevention and control. Every year, millions of workers are injured at work or suffer major health consequences because of their jobs. Wide minimum requirements for workplace safety and health protection have been set to prevent workplace accidents and occupational diseases. Control measures include action that can be taken to reduce the potential of exposure to the hazard or could be remove the hazard. The impact of the most critical safety hazard. The most critical safety hazard detected at this construction site are working with an excessive load lifted. The hazard has a rate of 20, indicating that the danger is high. Lifting, handling, or carrying objects at work can result in injuries, including sprain, strain, and other injuries. Effective ergonomic control can reduce the risk and prevent injuries. The impact of the most critical health hazard. Every day, construction workers are exposed to a range of health risks. Employers are responsible for ensuring the safety and health of their employees. Among the health hazards in the HIRARC table, unloading of steel structure component manually can classify as the most critical health hazard based on the risk rate, which is 8. and classified as medium. That's all from me. Thank you.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Noratika Binti Muhammad, my matric number DF190166. So basically I will present my part, which is the conclusion for this project. So we have known that the risk assessment requires appropriate observation of the work of the superstructure at the building. So during this investigation, a significant number of potential risks were discovered. We implement a number of specific safety precautions directed at the most critical hazard. So from this project, we also know that the risks are divided into 3 categories, which is first one is low, medium, and high. So throughout this study, the risk assessment is very helpful to the developer in identifying potential dangers at site and can help to avoid accidents and any death at the site. Last but not least, based on the results showed from the risk assessment, the measure considered most effectively to save costs and save any cost of losses. Okay, thank you.